Okay, besides the inserts that we provide here at Ashleigh's, we have gas logs. These are different than inserts because the inserts are an actual body with glass in front of them. These gas logs go right into the existing fireplace, either masonry or a factory built. And they come in different styles, of course, with different log sizes. And they come vented, where the heat goes up the chimney. So they're more for ambiance or decorative purposes for the people who just want them to look good. Or they come ventless for the people who want them to produce heat, because now the damper's closed so the heat comes back into the house.
So let me ask you a question, Randy. Am I understanding this correctly? If I just wanted to have, let's say, the look of a fireplace, you know, the flames are in there, but I didn't want the heat coming from them into the room, can I have that with this?
You have a little bit of heat like any fireplace,
yeah, okay,
but you have to come right to it to feel it. Okay, and now over here, we have another version of a gas fireplace. Though it doesn't look like the ones I've already shown you that are much larger, this is a bed and breakfast style fireplace or a hideaway fireplace. This is very good for bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchens in between the cabinets and the countertops, or in hallways. And this one is made by Avalon. It has multiple different styles of brick you can get inside to line it. This is a Swedish lattice that's covering it up, and it comes in a lot of other colors or styles. There's another one called the Tree of Life face, which actually has branches and leaves all over the glass, which is gorgeous. So there is a lot of different options that one can get to dress this to meet whatever the decor is of their home. And here we have a vent-free version of a gas stove. So for all the people who wanted a stove in their basement and didn't think they could because they're below grade, look at this, everybody. No chimney. So now you can put it in your basement, get some heat, and also have the beautiful look of a real fire.
Unfortunately, there's just too much stuff here at Ashleigh's for you to look at. And we could take 4 hours or 5 hours here on television. Of course, you probably wouldn't sit still for that. But if you're in need of what they sell here in Ashleigh's, what you really need to do is come on down here, talk to Randy, one of the ace salespeople here at Ashleigh's Hearth and Home. But we have to press on because we still have more information that we have to give the audience in a final element. Please stay glued to your television, because now Anthony's going to talk to us about the various choices of technology. And he does a great job with that. We'll be back right after this important message.
At Ashleigh's Hearth and Home, we pride ourselves in being the #1 source for fireplace products in the entire Hudson Valley. We have a huge selection of stoves, fireplaces, inserts, and accessories, both contemporary and traditional, for wood, gas, pellet, coal, and electric. You name it, we have it. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff is here to answer all of your questions. We stand behind all our products and installations with years of expertise and continuing education. Stop by on Route 9 between the Culinary Institute and Marist College and see how Ashleigh's Hearth and Home will warm your heart and home.
The other shops that I went to browse in did not make me feel welcomed, didn't offer information that I needed desperately, because we had had a wood-burning fireplace, and this was a totally new subject for us, and questions weren't answered, and the selection of fireplaces in the other shops were very limited for what we were looking for.
How do you decide what's the right installation? There's so much to choose from in the store. How does one decide this is the particular installation that you need right here?
Alan, what we actually do is we'll give the customer a sheet of paper, and it's got asking all kinds of different measurements from them.
Yeah.
So the width of the opening of the fireplace, the height, the hearth depth in the front, the depth of the firebox. We take those numbers, put them in the computer, and the computer will tell us what's going to fit and what's not going to fit.
Yes.
If it tells us something is not going to fit and the consumer really wants it, then we'll probably end up coming out to see if we can modify the firebox or the facing to allow that to fit inside of there.
Are there considerations as well for the numbers, for the square footage, the BTUs that are needed, et cetera?
Definitely.
Are those
so.
Calculations also put to work here?
In our preliminary meeting with the consumer, when they come on in, that's one of the questions we ask. How big of an area are you trying to heat? Are you trying to zone heat, your main living area where your family really stays into? Or are you trying to heat the whole house? If you had a long ranch house and the fireplace was on one end, we know that that's not going to get the heat from one end to the other without the assistance of either fans or ductwork from a furnace. So all these things, we're going to see the house, see the house as a whole, see what the consumer really wants, and then adjust as they need.
Is it possible, Bill, to use this kind of an application to heat an entire home?
Depending on the size of the home,
Yeah.
depending on the location of the fireplace, depending on the age of the home. So if a house is very,
Let's take a contemporary home that's 2,000 square foot. Could you heat it with something like this?
the bigger model would be.
The bigger model.
Bigger model here. This is the smaller model. Again, they didn't want to blow themselves out of this one area. So if we put a bigger one in and turn it up all the way high, it would be useless. They would be on a medium or low setting all the time, so why spend the extra money and have the bigger unit put in?
How do you make the determination as to the application? Is it wood? Is it gas? Is it the pellet? How do you determine that?
When a customer comes in to the showroom, again, we ask them what they're looking for, what their objective to being here.
Yes.
And we try to narrow down the fuel. If, as an example, if somebody came in and they're 60 years old, let's say, and he still thinks that he's a lumberjack and he's going to chop wood and haul wood and call wood, which he still may be able to do.
Right.
But I've got to ask him and his wife also, what about in 3-5 years from now, sir?
Yeah.
You know, I don't want you to make this kind of investment and then find out that you really can't
Yeah, do you want to
pump
be
the
out
wood
in the front
anymore.
yard in a foot of snow and your slippers chopping wood?
Right.
Not very appealing.
A lot of wood gets delivered. I mean, in my house, personally,
Yeah.
cut, split, delivered right to my house.
Right.
I don't have the time for it. We load it in the garage, and it's ready to
So
go.
at your house, you have the wood application.
I have a wood application as well as a pellet.
Okay.
Correct.
And why the two of them?
Two different areas. We have a porch in the back of the house that is basically a 3-season room. So actually, to extend it to 4 seasons, we put a high-end fireplace in, the Bellfire, and that is a heat-producing fireplace compared to a typical fireplace that sucks your heat up and out.
Right.
And the balance of the house gets done with the pellet stove.
Let's come back to this for just one moment. With the pellet stove, do you really have as much control, do you have more control, I should say, over your heat range and the amount of heat that you're generating, let's say, than you do with logs?
You can. On a pellet stove or a gas stove, you have the option of turning it high and low.
Yeah.
On a wood stove, you can put in 1 log or you can put in 3 logs.
Right.
But on a pellet stove or a gas stove, it's a constant heat. It doesn't get like with wood where it gets hot and then cools down a bit. This is on a constant heat that you can adjust to what you want to adjust to.
Right. So this probably is more scientific than, let's see, honey, we think this might be a 3-log night.
Correct. When I leave my house in the morning, I'm going to know if today's going to be 30 degrees out.
Yeah.
I'll leave it on a 3 setting. If it's going to end up being 45, I'll put it on a 2 setting or a 1 setting. If it's going to be 0 degrees, I'm going to turn that up to either 4 or 5, the highest that it can go, to constantly keep the amount of heat even in my home.
Bill, will you service somebody else's product? You get a lot of people calling you and saying to you, hey, I bought this and it doesn't work properly. Can you come and fix it for me?
Correct. We'll ask a few questions as far as how old is the unit itself, what kind of unit it is, if they have the manual, because when we send a technician out to you, the manual we're going to need to identify what kind of parts or problem that they may have.
Yes.
But we'll go out there and we'll look at the appliance, and if it's from a big box store, typically not. They're nothing but a headache. And they just don't function, and the customer's going to blame us because we're the last ones there. So we don't mess with any big box store stuff.
So the reason you won't mess with the big box store stuff is because it's just not up to standards.
It's
right?
problems.
Okay.
They break down constantly, and it's not worth our time to go there, try to fix something that will break down again.
Well, we're going to spend the next few minutes talking to Rob Sweet, who says, because I asked him off camera, how did you choose Ashleigh's Hearth and Home? And he had a very direct answer.
Tell me.